Before moving on, please note that this video will contain spoilers for the final Evangelion movie.
シンジ君
いいことなんかないよ。
本当にガキね。
償えない罪はない希望は残っているよ
After ages and ages of waiting, the final Evangelion movie released in theaters and is now on streaming platforms. It's been nearly 8 years, so is the final destination of the long journey worth the wait? Today, I'm going to break down my thoughts on the Evangelion series and mention what it did differently in terms of its predecessor and what I liked and disliked about it. Evangelion's always been a difficult franchise to analyze and break down, but what is it that makes the series so special? Most anime don't stick to symbolism, metaphors, hidden meanings and all that sort of stuff. They just give every anime fan what they want, a good story and some great action. But when it comes to the golden oldies, Neon Genesis Evangelion is a show that completely subverted the anime genre and created a landmark in the anime industry. And needless to say, along with that landmark also came controversy. If you try to stay around the Evangelion fandom a little bit, you can see two types of fans. One is the type of people who are just there to see giant robots killing each other, the final apocalypse, and to wage war over which girl Shinji's gonna end up with. The second group, however, is the more analytical group. These are the ones who break down every minute, every second, every frame, and every line of dialogue to find a more cohesive narrative and a hidden meaning director Anno tried to convey through his work. So, which of the fans are going to enjoy this final movie? I feel like the movie was aimed more towards the first group. The new Evangelion finale definitely has some psychological stuff going on in the background, but it feels like a more broken down version of the end of Evangelion ending. Let me phrase it a little bit better actually. The end of Evangelion is like a university lecture, and Evangelion Thrice Upon a Time is like a YouTube video that explains the same lecture but in a better way. But every method does have its flaws. The story is now more digestible for an audience if you ignore those angelic spears, additional impacts and other Evangelion shenanigans, but at the same time, I feel like the story didn't have much impact compared to the end of Evangelion. In the end of Evangelion, you can feel the originality and novelty of what Anno created. It's depressing, it's brutal, it's utterly nihilistic, but it's the reason why people still make videos trying to break down the ending to this day. End of Evangelion turned into a cinematic masterpiece no anime fan can forget, but can the same be said for the new Evangelion finale? Probably not very much. The end of Evangelion feels like a cinematic tribute to its predecessor. It borrowed a few elements from the original ending, made it less depressing, gave each character a happy ending, and made sure that director Anno can finally rest in peace. So if you're a regular Evangelion fan who's there to see Shinji finally come out of his depression with less psychological elements and more character drama, then this is going to be the perfect joyride for you. But if you expected an even deeper symbolic meaning with a controversial ending that you can analyze for another few decades, well, you'll probably be disappointed. But you'll only be disappointed just a bit because the rest of the movie does do everything well.
シンジ君は安らぎと自分の場所を見つければいい縁が君を導くだろうまた会えるよ
And now that the elephant in the room is out of the picture, let me get to why Evangelion 3.0 plus 1.0 is the perfect ending to the franchise. The first thing I want to note is the high production value. I mean, look at the gorgeous background art. If you remove the animation from the screen and just put all these backgrounds on a slideshow, you could use each slide as a desktop wallpaper. The animation also seems smooth, and the CGI blending with 2D animation during the battle scenes was actually done really well. I do admit there were times when the CGI felt a bit too much, and you kind of forget that you're actually watching an anime or watching a live action, but once again, it is Anno, so even that might have some hidden symbolism. Next up is the characters, because what would Evangelion be without its characters?
親の言いつけとはいえ、その程度の精神強度だったら、そもそもエヴァに乗らないでほしかったわ。
At the beginning of the movie, Shinji's depressed as usual, which once again isn't a surprise for anyone. Asuka is still the trash-talking girl who likes to use Shinji as a punchbag. The new clone of Rei is even more naive than Rei, and the new character Mari seems to be the only one who looks happy in this depressing world. But this is where the movie shifts tones from the original ending. In the original ending, all these characters had rather depressing conclusions, and back then, there was no cheerful Mari to cheer them up. The new ending takes things in a more positive direction. Shinji becomes confident and doesn't sway when his pain hits him again. Asuka is once again badass enough to go berserk and finally overcome her depression about finding her place in the world, and Rei's clone starts to understand the value of life much better. Side characters like Misato and Shinji's father also have satisfying character arcs too. Misato died knowing she became a good mother figure by sacrificing herself to save the world, and Shinji's father getting out of the metaphorical train was the acceptance of his defeat. And Anno really dumped all those shipping wars between Rei and Asuka and almost said, heck, why not go with this new girl? Personally, Personally, I think Mari and Shinji is a better ship, but once again, this is anime, so just because a girl runs out of the train station with a boy doesn't mean you can establish a ship right there. Apart from that, it felt as if every character ended up with a good ending. It's like playing a visual novel many times and finally getting that perfect ending that you've actually always wanted. And I feel like us Evangelion fans can finally rest in peace knowing our favourite characters don't want to kill each other in an apocalyptic world. Once again, as a final point, I need to return back to the story, because I felt like we were introduced to a lot of new concepts we couldn't explore in the older series.
互いに同調し、調律をしている。これも私に必要な儀式だ。
もうやめてよ父さん。
Additional impacts, Gendo donning a RoboCop helmet, spears, new angels, more Rey clones. There are a lot of new concepts that make this movie deserve a rewatch, or more than one rewatch. Many scenes in the middle of the film felt like an info dump you can't understand even if you have a PhD in physics, which means an Evangelion fan will definitely have to rewatch sometime later. Anyway, the character-defining moment for me was the conversation between Shinji and his father. It felt like a long-awaited moment for Evangelion fans, and I felt their battle and the conversation in the train was really well executed. Gendo's truly afraid of his own son, but ironically, the thing he very much wants, his wife, is inside his only son. That symbolic defeat of one of the worst fathers of all time felt emotional, but it gave Gendo's character a successful arc rather than what we saw in End of Evangelion. Although those final shots of the animation going back to storyboarding and finally lighting up back again when Mari landed was absolutely beautiful and felt like one of those directing tricks of Anno. Needless to say, the man's truly a great filmmaker. So is Evangelion a great movie? Definitely. I'm one of those old as gold people, so I still love Evangelion more than any modern anime movies that get released. There are no perfect white knights trying to save the world. It's a story of flawed people gradually overcoming those flaws. It's what makes the story of Evangelion so great. But on that same note, in terms of impact, which Evangelion ending would I rank as first? I'd definitely go for the End of Evangelion ending and keep this ending in the second spot. Overall, Thrice Upon a Time felt like a tribute and a love letter for every Evangelion fan around the world. It's like Arno's way of saying it's over and everyone's happy. The characters we've loved for 2 decades finally got the happy ending they deserve, and let's hope some Japanese company won't get the idea to milk out another franchise out of Evangelion, because this was the perfect full stop to the franchise. Once upon a time we got the incoherent ending, twice upon a time we got the depressing ending, and thrice upon a time we finally got the ending we deserved.
ありがとう。8プラス9プラス10プラス11プラス12号機。ご苦労様。最後のエヴァンゲリオン。
So there goes my thoughts on the new Evangelion movie. Since this is Evangelion we're speaking of, I know everyone has a lot of thoughts to share, so use the comment section below to discuss why you liked or disliked the movie. Subscribe to the channel for more anime analysis videos and reviews, because there's a lot more coming your way in the future. Also, I've collaborated with Amazon Prime UK for a recap of the first 3 Evangelion rebuild movies. You can check that video on their channel, and I'll leave the link in the description or just click on the end screen. Thanks for watching, Eva fans, and I'll see you in the next video.